This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. This is the 600th show for September 2nd, and I am your host, Darren McKee. With me, as usual, this year, not quite as usual, but at the moment, is Adam Gardner.
What's up, Cuboids?
Christina Roach.
Hey, everyone.
And producer Pat.
Nice to hear your voices in real time, guys.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, simultaneity. What a concept. So we thought we would do it because it's the 600th episode. It's been a while, risk managing it all, and we just wanted to hear each other's voices in real time. We have a great show for you today, as usual. We have a great game of Name That from Pat.
Sweet.
And then Adam is going to look into seeds from China.
That's right.
But first, I'm going to explore whether cancel culture exists. I don't know if you've heard about that in the news at all. Nice to be back. Let's get right into it. Listeners, let me ask you, do you think cancel culture exists? Yeah, I know, it's been months and you already get a quiz. I'll wait a moment. Okay, what did you say? Did you say yes? Perhaps you said no. Either way, replying yes or no means that you have a pretty good understanding of what the question was. And you'd never answer a question without knowing what the words mean, would you? So I'm curious to hear your definition of cancel culture. Oh, you silly listeners, I can't hear you, but I appreciate you saying your answers out loud. I have just indicated what my segment is about, so let me now Darren the heck out of it. As a hint, we need to know what words mean when we discuss things.
Fair.
In the question, does cancel culture exist, we really need to know what cancel culture means, and even what the word exists means. I think we can safely assume that does part of the question is okay though, unless you're a lawyer. It depends what is means. Cancel culture. What does this mean? First, culture. I don't think a long discussion is needed about what a culture is, nor is there full agreement, but a reminder that is typically the social behavior, norms, laws, customs, beliefs, arts, etc. of a group of individuals in human societies. Second, the cancel part of cancel culture. Well, this wording certainly indicates someone or something is being negated in some way. Good old Wikipedia has this paraphrased definition. I'm going to quote it. Cancel culture describes a form of boycott in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, either online or social media, in the real world, or both. They are said to be cancelled. Merriam-Webster defines cancel, this is still within Wikipedia, as to stop giving support to that person, and Dictionary.com defines it as calling out the bad behavior, boycotting their work, such as by not watching their movies or listening to their music, and trying to take away their public platform and power. Lisa Nakamura, professor of media studies at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, defines canceling as simply a cultural boycott, in which the act of depriving someone of attention deprives them of their livelihood. So with these descriptors, there is little to no emphasis on legal action, but rather A, passively not engaging with a person or thing one wants to cancel, and or B, actively trying to get other people and organizations to boycott this individual or thing. That latter case can be seen as removing someone's platform to communicate, thus deplatforming, the word there. Further nuance regarding intensity is also important to clarify. There's a difference between saying you don't want to experience a thing and saying you don't want anyone else to experience a thing. Now, this seems to run the range from not giving someone you dislike attention to advocating for their removal from all social spaces forever. Finally, is the successfulness of a cultural boycott, as we're calling it, an important variable? I think it is, only in that it should be clarified if it matters. Meaning, if people try to cancel, say person X, but they do not succeed, would this still count as cancel culture with the above definitions? Well, boycotts are still boycotts, even if they don't succeed. But again, another nuance here that involved in how we're going to understand things. So with all that analysis, I think those descriptions basically cover it. I lied. What does exists mean? Welcome back. If the word exists means that there has been an instance of it, then of course cancel culture exists. People have tried to boycott someone.
Sure.
But we usually don't describe a few instances of something as a culture.
Yeah.
What I'm really asking is how much of something do you need to make a culture? Now, turns out we did need that definition of culture that I said we didn't. When you think of gamer culture or foodie culture, there seems to be something different there than Japanese culture or Canadian culture, whatever that might be. Yeah. Skateboard culture isn't a thing if there's just two people on skateboards dressed similarly.
Not yet.
I like your goal-oriented mindset. Sometimes people have used the term subculture to highlight the difference of size and scale, and perhaps even nesting of behaviors and beliefs. Things got complicated quite quickly. Why is this relevant? Well, because agreement is required on what exactly cancel culture is, and something like how many instances there are of it, likely balanced by population and possibly region, to meet a threshold of existence. I've never heard anyone propose such a definition. Why? Well, trying to apply rigor to something inherently messy is difficult, if not impossible. But also, it isn't really how most humans think. Scientists want analysis and controlled experiments to isolate variables and have consistency. Most people think anecdotes are sufficient and think that observing someone they like being criticized on Twitter is rigorous enough. Well, I've seen it. I'm sure we can all think of instances where groups of people socially, culturally boycotted an individual or an organization. People have been disinvited to talks, celebrities have been literally removed from movies and fired from other ventures, and average people get eviscerated for attempting jokes on social media. But out of how many? Are there that many people being fired for poor jokes? How often, when a celebrity missteps, are they then boycotted successfully and unsuccessfully? Are there even that many people upset about an instance, or is it the usual case of loud voices drowning out the majority of people who aren't that engaged or don't care?
Doesn't matter if it succeeds in canceling a person.
Well, that's what I said before, exactly. Relatedly, humans are subject to availability bias and confirmation bias. Good chance to talk about biases quickly. Availability bias, the more easily someone can think of something, the more often they think it occurs. The media often really exacerbates this bias. Thus, people are fearing, say, death from sharks more than vending machines, or fearing death from almost anything than a traffic accident. Now, there may be some issues with the foundational research regarding the letter K and the frequency of words, but the general idea still seems to hold relatively robustly.
And Darren, to be clear, right, it's definitely media across the board.
Oh, certainly. I'm not saying one side is doing this more than another at this time, but even that question, well, what media outlets? What's the frequency with which they publish? How many times do people comment? Like, what I'm trying to get at is, almost like how many tweets total on a subject related to a particular individual are negative, using some sort of semantic analysis and machine learning algorithm, combing through it to try to figure out, is this person trying to be canceled by a certain number of group and how many and so on. It becomes exceptionally complicated. Now, someone could probably try to do this as a thesis, and it might be having at least some sort of rigor compared to what we get nowadays. And we also know, much like, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. Well, that person's cancel is not the same as my cancel. I'm doing the right thing and sticking up for justice. Well, they're just engaging in this cancel culture, deplatforming. And as quickly, availability bias also links to the notion of base rate neglect, which just means you don't really understand the base rate of how often things occur in the world. And we could have good old confirmation bias. The more we believe something, more we are likely to seek out or pay attention to or offer greater credibility to information that concerns what we believe. So both of these biases are doing a lot of lifting when discussing cancel culture. Nearly all of us are in bubbles. So we are, 1, more likely to see information that validates our worldview because we've literally created bubbles of like-minded people. And then 2, when we try to assess how frequently something is occurring, availability bias kicks in because we've, 3, been bombarded with stimuli that leads us to misunderstand the base rate of occurrence overall. There's another interesting layer that I found, intriguing. It could very well be that someone is accurately tracking how frequently something occurs within their bubble, so they are not actually misperceiving frequency based on the stimuli they experience. But because the type and frequency of stimuli they themselves disproportionately experience to the true rate, this person ends up with false beliefs. In this case, you'd have accuracy within a bubble, but not in the objective world. So, does cancel culture exist? Well, in some ways it probably does, and in some ways it doesn't. I have attempted to provide a framework for exploring that question, but actually providing all the details to answer it would make this segment far too long, even longer than it is. I would suggest picking a few definitions and working through them instead of getting stuck on agreeing upon a definition, because sometimes people do that and it doesn't make sense to me. Just because these questions are hard to answer doesn't mean they aren't important. Further, when things are complicated, that is a time for more effort at understanding, not less.
I knew you were going to cover this, but I didn't think that was the direction that you were going in. But you did say you were going to Darren the heck out of it, so I should know.
Yeah, I definitely think it exists. I read John Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed a few years ago. He illustrates perfect examples of minor transgressions which really had a serious impact on people's lives when things got out of control. I think one of the factors is likely that shame as an evolved response makes sense. There should be an accountability to what a person says. So if you wrong someone, maybe that person is offended. thinks less of you because of it, and then spreads it amongst their small group of friends verbally, right? Now we live in a world where social media exists, where the history of what has been said is recorded and accessible at a very easy way. There's a mismatch between our evolutionary environment, the technological environment we live in, and it gives people the ability to pick up on a small thing, bring a lot of light to it, and shame it. So people have a maybe a natural reaction, which seems like accountability culture, as people like to call it. But really what it ends up being is a disproportional response to a minor transgression. That's something I see a lot. But to be fair, in my bubble, I actively seek out people who are marginalized and canceled, and I cue into why is this person being canceled, and I listen to and follow this person, and they talk about similar things. So there's obviously a feedback effect that's going to make me think that it's a big deal. But that's kind of my idea of maybe why some of this is happening. And the other side is people maybe being a little more sensitive than they used to be. That's a little harder to quantify, and we'd have to come up with some definitions of a bunch of words to go and answer that question.
And right, but you did say a minor transgression. There are people who have been canceled for major transgressions, right? So, like,
yes,
it's not always the case that it's minor.
I'm not talking about Harvey Weinstein, you're right, but I'm talking about people who made a bad tweet and who basically were canceled for it, or made an off-color joke, whereas in the past, maybe you said it in front of a brick wall to an audience that didn't like it, and a couple of them didn't like you anymore. But now it's recorded and it gets out, and your career is ruined, right? So it's different, right? So, but yeah, for sure, there's going to be a bit of a spectrum where there's like sexual assault and a bad tweet, and there's going to be a spectrum there, right?
And adding further complexity to my own segment, I just recently read a piece by John McWhorter saying he received tons of messages privately from academics who are worried about saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So then you don't really even have a sense whether it's prevalent in the population because people aren't speaking out, but then someone says they're speaking out but privately, so that's that. And then we can always think, well, in what ways is that different than someone else on the internet voicing a view that some people don't like, and then that person getting tons of death threats or rape threats? That's not quite what people think of when they think of cancel culture, but some of those actions could be very much within the boycotting, social shaming an individual, but in a different way than most people currently conceptualize. All I have to say is, I think something like it definitely exists in some way. It's just how much, to whom, frequency, severity, and all that other sorts of stuff. Now we have our first simultaneous game in a very, very long time. Another game of Name That.
All right, here we go with another edition of everyone's favorite mostly guessing game, Name That. Today, in honor of episode 600, it's less of a guessing game and more of a memory game.
Uh-oh.
Darren jokes sometimes that you guys will forget what you learned in the games, and today we put that to the test. All of the questions have been played by all of you in previous games.
Ouch.
Savage.
We have 6 questions, no tiebreaker. If we're tied at the end of the 6 questions, we'll end that way. As usual, I'll give you a piece of information, and then I'll ask you to name that from the choices provided. I've randomly chosen the order, and we'll rotate. Darren, you are first. Question number 1. The earliest known reference to a coin-operated vending machine dates back to at least the 1st century BC. Name that. What product did this machine dispense? A. Healing crystals. B. Holy water. C. Honey wine. Or D. What we would now call a horoscope.
I have no memory of this question, let
Me
alone
too.
the answer. How about a horoscope?
Darren says a horoscope. Next is Christina.
I'm going to go with the wine. C?
Christina says wine. And lastly, Adam.
I'm going to go with holy water.
The earliest known reference to a vending machine is in the work of Hero of Alexandria, a Greek engineer and mathematician. His machine accepted a coin and in return dispensed holy water.
Oh, man.
Question number 2. What was the name of the first search engine designed by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who just over a year later launched Google.com? Christina, name that. A. Gopher Pile. B. Deep Thought. C. Backrub. Or D. Alphabet.
Back rub sounds ridiculous. I'm going to say A.
Christina says Gopher Pile. Next is Adam.
I think it was deep thought, but then every time someone put in a query, it came up with 42, so that didn't work.
Hi-yo.
I think it's gopher pile.
Adam says A, gopher pile. And lastly, Darren.
I will also choose go for pile.
Yeah, when Adam chose it, I thought, oh, thank goodness.
So everyone agrees on gopher pile and everyone is incorrect. The answer is C, back rub.
Back rub.
Oh, really?
That is ridiculous.
I don't remember that answer at all. I do remember that question.
Question number 3. This is a question where you have the opportunity to get 2 points.
What?
Adam, name that. Which of the following recommended servings has the highest and which has the lowest sugar content?
Oh, boy.
Oh, this thing. Sorry.
So just to be clear, I need 2 answers from everyone, and you'll get 1 point for identifying the lowest or the highest, and you'll get 2 points for identifying them both correctly.
Okay.
A, Campbell's tomato soup. B, Raisin Bran cereal. C, a can of regular Coke. D, a Krispy Kreme donut. Or E, a Starbucks tall caramel light frappuccino.
I believe the highest sugar content would be the Raisin Bran cereal, and the lowest would be the tomato soup.
All right, next is Darren.
Okay, I'll choose Coke as the highest and tomato soup as the lowest.
And lastly, Christina.
It's a bit of a torturous psychological name, that. Because like Adam said, you're trying to gauge what you think makes sense against what you may remember. I'm going to say that Starbucks Frappuccino has the highest sugar. And I don't want to fall into that tomato soup trap. What was B?
Like a fly?
Raisin Bran.
I'm going to go with Coke as the lowest.
Whoa.
That's interesting. That's my highest.
Going from highest to lowest sugar content, number 1 is the can of Coke with 39 grams of sugar. Number 2 is the Starbucks Frappuccino with 22 grams of sugar. Number 3 is the Raisin Bran with 17 grams of sugar. Number 4 is the tomato soup with 15 grams of sugar. And the lowest sugar content is the donut with 10 grams of sugar.
So the donut's all fat? Is that the trick there?
I would think so, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
pretty crafty.
All right, question number 4. Darren, spot the fake. Which one of these is not a real dating site? A, The Ugly Ball, whose tagline is, dating for the aesthetically average. B, Clown Dating. Everyone loves a clown. Let a clown love you. C, Gluten-Free Singles. Living a gluten-free life can be challenging, especially in a world where gluten-soaked foods are just about everywhere. At Gluten-Free Singles, you're not alone.
Of course.
Or D, Game, Set, and Match. Online dating for racket sport enthusiasts, where the perfect score is love, love.
These are all delightful. I remember this being delightful. I'm going to say D is the fake.
All right, next is Christina.
D sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Well, they all sound ridiculous, but yes.
That one sounds especially, it's so specific. I say D. I stick with D.
Lastly, Adam.
I think it's the clown one. I think we talked about it. Maybe there's like even a fake website, but it's not real. So I'm going to go with the clown one.
All right.
Before you reveal, Pat, my memory is that you created at least one of these, and you did such a good job. But that's why I thought, I think I picked the clown one last time. That's my memory. And the Game Set Match one sounded too good, but you were just too good a writer. So that's why I switched it to that one.
Fair enough, and it is the one that I made up. Question number 5. You guys probably know that water makes up about 71% of the Earth's surface. But what percentage of the Earth's mass is water? Christina, name that. Is it A, less than 1%, B, roughly 10%, C, roughly 20%, or D, roughly 30%?
Oh, I remember this. I'm going to hate myself. B.
Christina says roughly 10%. Next is Adam.
I know what I said last time, but I don't remember if I was right. I said less than 1%. My logic was that the deepest depths of the ocean are comparable to the highest peaks of mountains. When you look at the Earth from space, it's still mostly round. So I believe the depth of the ocean is very thin over the surface of the Earth, so that it is less than 1%.
And lastly, Darren.
So what you want to do is you want to do 2 different spheres and approximately the depth of the oceans. 4/3 pi r cubed is the volume of the sphere, and the radius of the Earth is about 4,000 kilometers, and you subtract. So
I don't think water's more dense than rock, which relates to mass. So I'm also picked the less than 1% because it is such a small fraction.
I think you guys are right.
Yeah.
Darren agrees with Adam. Scientists calculate that the oceans on Earth weigh 1.35 billion trillion kilograms, or 2,976 trillion pounds. This is just 1/4,400th of the total mass of the Earth, which means that while the oceans cover 71% of the Earth's surface, they only account for 0.02 of our planet's total mass. So going to the last question, I have Darren with 3, Adam with 2, and Christina with 1. Adam, name that. Easter Island is a territory of which country? A, Peru, C, Chile, C, Kenya, or D, Norway?
I remember the question. I do not remember the answer. Chile.
Adam says Chile. Next is Darren.
Sorry, Pat. Can you repeat the question?
Easter Island is a territory of which country? Peru, Chile, Kenya, Norway.
Peru.
Christina?
Pretty sure I got this right the last time, too. It is Chile.
Easter Island is a Chilean territory in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Congratulations, Adam and Darren.
Now we turn to Adam to talk to us about seeds from China.
That's right, Darren. Have you heard about these mysterious packets of seeds, which people have received in the mail from China? Should you be worried about them? I first heard about these about a month ago, and at the time there wasn't much news about it. A few people in the state of Virginia had reported receiving unsolicited packages of seeds, which appeared to originate from China. Some also originated from Taiwan, Malaysia, Uzbekistan, and Pakistan. This prompted the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to issue a warning. Their advice: don't plant them. Instead, these people should contact the Office of Plant Industry Services. I had no idea that was a service.
It sounds like something on Harry Potter.
For sure. So at the time, I wanted to talk about it on the show, but there really wasn't that much information on it. But Pat brought the topic up again a short while back, and it seemed that there'd been a little more going on, and there may be something I could cover. At this point, thousands of packets of seeds have been received in the US, Canada, Taiwan, and in Australia. So what was all this fear about? Now, one concern was that people didn't really know what these seeds contained, and they could be an invasive plant species. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency issued this statement, and I quote, "Unauthorized seeds could be the seeds of invasive plants or carry plant pests, which can be harmful when introduced into Canada. These species can invade agricultural and natural areas, causing serious damage to our plant resources." The Australian Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment said something similar. "Secure the seeds and immediately report it to the department. Seeds that do not meet Australia's biosecurity import conditions could be an exotic, noxious, or invasive species or be carrying harmful plant pathogens." Sounds serious. So the concept of an invasive species, which can apply to plants or animals, is that a non-native species would be able to outcompete others which are native to the area, and this could upset the balance of the ecosystem. Is this possible in this case? Well, we don't know what's in those seed packets, so theoretically, it is possible, but we can examine the plausibility. In general, island ecosystems are more vulnerable to invasive species. New Zealand's ecosystem was disrupted by dogs and rats that were brought in by Polynesian settlers, and Hawaii had a number of invasive species as well. Now, this is because these are islands that are closed off from other ecosystems. New species or predators aren't likely to come in from the outside of the island, as they would for ecosystems in large land masses. Birds on an island may evolve to be flightless in the absence of predators, for example, and then, if such a predator were later introduced, the birds would not be able to flee. Then they would get eaten. This kind of adaptation would be less likely to occur on a large landmass where predators would be able to enter and exploit this, and then more species would be spread out throughout various ecosystems. Often, an invading species of animal won't have a natural predator, and so its expansion is less restricted than in their natural habitat. So these are animal examples, but the same kind of thing happens with plants. So much to say, if someone was randomly mailing seeds to Hawaii, Bermuda, Jamaica, or some other island nation, there may be more cause for concern. Seeds sent within the continental United States could still be a danger, but it's less likely to be a big problem. The seeds sent to Taiwan and Australia are therefore more likely to be a concern, if that's really what's going on. So one thing that came to mind to me was, what's motivating someone to transplant an invasive species to another country? Now, it would depend on who's doing it, of course. But who would want to damage a North American ecosystem? Individual private groups are unlikely to benefit from this. If the Chinese government were planning to weaken the US economy through mailing invasive species, it just seems kind of unnecessary. A Chinese spy could very easily plant seeds themselves almost anywhere in much greater volume. It wouldn't be difficult to seed a park, a countryside, or even farmers' fields with seeds. Doing so with tiny mailed-out packets seems like a fairly inefficient way of doing so. And it's certainly low effort, but there would also be a non-negligible chance of being caught, what with many people already suspecting that this is actually what's going on. I would also question that this would be of much value to a foreign government to just add an invasive species to an ecosystem.
I think it could be highly valuable to a foreign government if they're actually engaged in that type of, we'll say, sabotage.
Sure.
But yes, why would they do it compared to other means of sabotaging something? And then would this be really the way they would do it?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly was it the couple frogs brought to Australia just rippled through everything?
Yep.
And I think America even has their own problems with wild pigs. So you can cause multi-year, if not decade problems with a few invasive species.
Yes.
Would it really be in someone's best interest?
Yeah. Not totally clear, right? Just to hurt someone else doesn't necessarily benefit you, right? So it could be an act of terrorism or some other malevolent person or group that's doing this, but why, right? What's your motivation? All right, so let's put that aside. What are these seeds actually? Though authorities have asked people not to plant them, surely some people have, right? Personally, I think if I had some of these seeds, it would be pretty low risk to plant them indoors in a pot and see what comes up. I wouldn't anticipate a Little Shop of Horrors type situation where a plant from a Chinese flower shop in that story.
I just did when you said that.
So the plant gets an appetite for human blood and ends up eating people. Now, some people have planted them. A woman in Kentucky was part of a planting Facebook club, and she assumed that the seeds were part of that group. Probably didn't check the sent address. She planted them in a pot. She then learned about the seeds on the news. She destroyed the plant without ever identifying what it was. Texas woman made a similar mistake, thinking the seeds were part of a gift exchange group that she was part of. She planted the seeds, but they didn't sprout. She also said that some moss she planted in a pot with the seeds died, while the same moss flourished in another pot. Dun, dun, dun. Oh. Now, in Arkansas, a man said he planted some seeds and added Miracle-Gro, and they just started growing like crazy. Now, I don't know why he wouldn't expect it to do so if he planted them with Miracle-Gro, but whatever. Maybe he just didn't have success in the past, but he still kept using it. He said the plant looked like a giant squash plant. But none of these planted seeds were able to be identified, often because they were later destroyed. But the seeds have been checked, and many of them aren't all that exotic. Seeds which were examined have shown to be mustard, cabbage, mint, lavender, rose, morning glory, sage, rosemary, and hibiscus. So there could be others, of course, with thousands of these packets going around, but these species don't seem to be terribly dangerous, so a deliberate attack by invasive species seems to be unlikely at this point. So what other explanation is there? Well, some say it could be a brushing scam. So these scams see people receiving all kinds of packages which were never ordered. Besides seeds, others have gotten things like face masks and ping pong balls. Large items can sometimes be shipped, but light, cheap-to-ship items are very common. A tiny packet full of seeds fits the bill.
An empty box often is part of it, too.
Yeah, an empty box can be part of it, though sometimes they spot those. So a third-party company, such as an Amazon reseller, will find your address somehow, and then they will use it to create a fake purchase that seems to be made by you to buy their own product. They send you an item as part of a fake transaction. They then give themselves a positive review for the transaction on the site. Christina looked at online reviews in the last show, and we know that many of those are fake. And this is a sophisticated way to make a fake review seem to be tied to a verified purchase. The item being shipped verifies the purchase, which allows them to post a verified review, and logs the sale as verified, both of which help the seller's ranking for searches. It's a low-cost transaction for them because the item is cheap and has a low shipping cost. They pay themselves for the item, so there's no loss there, though there are often transaction costs from either the banking institution or the marketplace itself. Amazon usually has something like 15% for a lot of those sales. Now, I was a bit confused as to why they actually had to send an item as part of this transaction, and no article I found online gave me a straight answer for this. Amazon does not require a seller to track a package, so why does someone need to send a package to fake an authentic purchase? Now, it seems the tracking is preferable for both seller and buyer in many cases, but how is it useful when the purchase is fake? Now, Pat, you had some thoughts on this and found some indication of what the reason might be. You want to speak to that?
It's partially speculation on my part, but my thinking was that if someone had a lot of untracked packages that resulted in positive reviews, that might set off the algorithms. Like, it seems from what I read in several Reddit threads and in a few articles that the actual tracking seems to lend some legitimacy to the reviews.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Pat. Now, I've never sold anything on Amazon. I couldn't really find a straight answer by reading up on the service. It's not something they're advertising. The existence of a brushing scam suggests that only a mailed package would be considered to be a verified complete purchase, or maybe that it just gives it more weight or makes it more valuable. So you'll often be able to track the status of your shipment directly from Amazon. The site is aware of your shipped item. And without knowing exactly how the Amazon algorithms work, a seller who tracks a shipment may be considered more likely to be a real sale, which could be reflected in search result rankings and such. Or, like you said, they may flag an account if it isn't tracking the sales and they happen to get a lot of positive reviews and things like that. And the algorithms may change. It's also possible that those running the brushing scams don't actually know the specifics of how those algorithms work. They may not actually know if this makes a big difference. So for sure, it seems that a verified purchase is prioritized by Amazon. The rating is not a straight average of all ratings, but verified purchases are given more weight to that formula, which is itself obscured and likely to change over time. And one should also consider other websites. Popular in China are Alibaba and AliExpress. Alibaba is for business to business, so bulk sales, and AliExpress is business to customer, so selling directly to the customer in small amounts. From what I can tell from the AliExpress webpage, tracking is required. So are these seeds really an Amazon brushing scam, or are they all in AliExpress, or perhaps another marketplace which tracks shipments and provides some value to the seller for doing either in their ability to leave a review, the weight of a review, or priority in a search result, either for those reviews or for an actual sale? I don't know. I don't have the straight answer to that, but the name Amazon often came up in articles that was discussing this. So it doesn't necessarily hurt you to receive something in a brushing scam, though it could mean that your personal information is compromised. Ideally, only your name and address are compromised, possibly from another purchase, but that information may have been obtained along with other compromised information about yourself. If a retailer is known, such as Amazon, it might be a good idea to change your password for that specific service. But there are other ways in which your information may be compromised, such as accessing voter registration information in online registries. In some states, you can find that fairly easily. Now, brushing scams have become more common since the start of the pandemic, simply because there have been more online sales. Again, something Christina mentioned last week. More people are fighting for a bigger piece of that pie. More people are fighting for those sales. So if you get mystery seeds in the mail, you probably shouldn't plant them. They could be an invasive species, though it seems like these seeds being a deliberate plot to destroy a foreign ecosystem is an unwarranted and unnecessary explanation. The much more likely and mundane explanation is that these seed packages, like many other packages received by people every day, are part of a brushing scam to boost a seller's ranking and reviews on some reseller market like Amazon or AliExpress.
If someone was curious if you had any links for this, where might they find them, Adam?
TRCpodcast.com.
Now, would you say that's a great website?
I would say that that's a great website.
A great website.
There have been 0 brushing scams pulled off against TRCpodcast.com.
Okay, it sounds like a great website as well.
And I suppose if you get a packet of seeds in the mail, you might want to visit haveibeenpwned.com, which is also a great website.
Yes.
Thank you, Adam. And thank you for joining us once again, listeners. I talked to you about whether cancel culture exists, and under some definitions, it certainly does, but really try to clarify what it is when you're talking to other people. Pat humbled us once again with another game, highlighting our own not only lack of knowledge, but our own lack of memory. And Adam showed us that, yes, if you get stuff in the mail that you didn't really want, it's probably not to be tolerated or used. Just don't trust it. It's sort of like email. And a big thank you to all the listeners who've been joining us for all these past years and all these past episodes. We feel pretty happy that we've been going for 600 episodes. Maybe there's going to be 600 more. We'll see how things look in 2032. But until next time, at least, think better, to act better.
Peace out, cute boys.
Yeah, all Adam's kids are going to take over. Stay classy, not smart assy.
Intergenerational transfer.
We'll talk to you next week, everyone.
Peace out, cute boys.
Snaps.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com.
Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at TRC_podcast.
Guess I'm just going to start like I usually do 7 months ago.
Yeah.
And also, and this will seem to, so I'm like, what's this people speaking in my ear?
What are these magical voices?
What? I haven't heard a siren like that in a long time.
Yeah. Where's the fire?
Yeah, see, the 1930s
like,
called.
yeah,
They're
like-
under attack. But Raisin Bran has the bran part.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 scoops of raisins in every box of Kellogg's Raisin Brans.
Just the fact that you think it's more specific than clown dating, I have no idea what to do with.
The first 2 were Chile and Argentina?
What's going on with your working space memory, man? This is the simplest question.
I know.
Peru,
so
Chile,
the
Kenya,
problem was
Norway.
I phased out when you asked the question, then I heard them, and I was like, Norway? And I started thinking about fjords.
Great website.
Well, I was like, if we don't say great website on our 600 episode, that's tragic.
400 to infinity in like a millisecond. It's just never going to end.
You had to choose infinity. That's an asymptote.
Fine. Roko's Basilisk can torture me for that error.
There you go.